So a few weeks back, I started doing these like tips and tricks, guide videos on like the best weapon talents to use, the best backpack talents, the best chest piece talents, the best gear sets, the best brand sets, blah, blah, blah. Now, with all that being said, in each of those videos, I kept reminding people that I wasn't going to go into the talent combinations until the end. That way, you see what's the best ones to use in each of those categories, and then I show you what, the best combinations to use, and you're good to go. That way, you've already farmed the weapon talents, the backpacks, and the chest pieces, and now I show you how, when to put the chest piece and the backpacks together and which combination. That way, you just plug and play. Because a lot of these, and you'll see, are similar talents. So once you farm the right backpack or the right chest piece, you can just plug and play with all the different gear sets or brand sets, whether you want to do a crit build or a tank build or a hybrid build or a DPS build. You can do all of those things once you have these talent combinations. That's it. Good to go. Just put on whatever mask, gloves, knee pads, and holster, and that's it. Bada bing, bada boom. And you're starting to see how I make all of my build videos because I start with the chest piece and the backpack, and then I'm like, all right, what kind of set do I want to use? What kind of weapons do I want to use? This and that, because everything else is easy. The hardest things to farm in this game are the chest piece and the backpacks because of the talents and the different talent combinations you want to use. So, after this video, I hope all of your questions are answered and you know exactly which ones to farm and why. Here we go. What's going on, YouTube? Kamikazevondoom here with another Division 2 video. So sit back, relax, grab that popcorn. Don't forget to hit that like, subscribe if you haven't already, and let me know what you think in the comment section below. And finally, shout out where you're from. It's cool to see where everyone is from. Now, best talent combinations to use and why. We are talking about the chest pieces and the backpacks. We are not going to be talking about the weapon talents in conjunction with, because that video on weapon talents explained all of it. So this one is just about your chest piece and your backpack talents, which combinations to use, and why. So for the weapons, for the specialization, for the skills, don't worry about it. They're going to be the same for all of these builds. But I have 15 different combinations that we're going to break down. Okay? And this will cover tank builds, support builds, DPS builds, all of it. So I hope you enjoy. Now, starting at the top with a skill build combination. Now, for this combination, we are using kinetic momentum with tech support. So this would typically be on a skill build because both of these talents are skill related. So for kinetic momentum, this is one of your top talents for a skill build. You're either going to use kinetic momentum or typically glass cannon. There's a few people that would use spotter for a skill damage, increase, but for the most part, it's typically going to be kinetic momentum or glass cannon to help you with your damage. Now, with kinetic momentum, while you're in combat, each of your skills will generate a stack while you're active or not on cooldown. So each of these stacks will increase the skill damage and skill repair, but then you start to lose your stacks whenever your skills are on cooldown. So with this being said, right, your skill damage is going up constantly, but it's only while you're in combat. This is fun, but remember it has to stack up. So what I match that up with is tech support, because tech support also requires you to do something. So let me explain. If you were to use tech support with, say, a hardwired build, right, and kinetic momentum, you could throw on something like the Seeker Mine or like a Hive, right? Drop your Hive, throw out your Seeker Mine, pick up your Hive, drop your Hive, you get your Seeker Mines back, throw out your Seeker Mines, pick up your Hive, drop your Hive. You see what I'm getting at here. And while you're doing that, the kinetic momentum will build up stacks, increasing the damage to those skills. And then once you get a skill kill with that Seeker Mine, you get tech support. Now, tech support increases your total skill damage by 25% for 25 seconds. Now, this is pretty big, and it lasts a long time. That's what she said. Yeah, we get it. We get it. Now, with tech support, you would be able to basically sit in cover, spam seeker mines, and get increased damage all at the same time. This does not require you to shoot the enemy. This does not require you to run around. You could literally just sit in cover, use this combination, and you're good to go. But this is just our first skill example. So we'll knock out all the skill builds first, okay? The next one I would typically use is like a glass cannon situation. Now, what I do like to use with glass cannon is Creeping Death and Eclipse Protocol. And I know a lot of people are already like rolling their eyes like, why aren't you using the Eclipse backpack? Come on, Kami. And well, the answer is pretty simple. Creeping Death is easily one of the most dangerous talents to use in PvE and PvP. It does not require you to get a kill. It does not require you to shoot enemies or anything like that. You literally hit one enemy with a status, and it will immediately spread that status effects to all enemies within 8 meters. It's really dangerous. So what I typically do is I have it with glass cannon and like a burn sticky, and the first enemy I hit with that burn sticky, it spreads that same burn to all the other enemies around them. And then once the enemies start to die, the Eclipse Protocol will kick in with the indirect transmission and spread the status effects even further. And if it takes long enough, you could even proc Creeping Death again and spread the status effects again. And the whole point of this is to spread the status effects more. And then that way you can just get more overall damage, right? Pretty simple. Now the other skill build combination, let me see here, way down here. So another one would be glass cannon and like combined arms, or in this example, perfect combined arms. Because what this one does is you would use like a turret drone or like, something like that, like seeker mines and like a drone, to where your skills are constantly doing damage, but then you could be doing damage with your weapon, and then you could have perfect combined arms with like, say, in sync or perfectly in sync, and then you could get all of these to proc at the exact same time. So for skill builds, I would go glass cannon or kinetic momentum, and then I would go creeping death, tech support, or combined arms. Now you could go with shock and awe, perfect shock and awe, but I don't know. I mean, for me personally, I would rather use combined arms, creeping death, or tech support. Now those are your different skill build combinations. Now let's start to go into the support build combinations. So the first one would be my legendary support build. I've used this for Foundry Bulwark, Cavalier. I've used this for several different, examples. Now this one I'm using with Cavalier. So the point of this would be to give 1.8 million of my armor to all of my allies as bonus armor. And I would also be giving them damage resistance and what was the other one? Oh yeah, hazard protection. So this is probably the best of all worlds when it comes to a support build outside of a healer. So you would have this build, and then you would have a healer, and then the other two would be DPS builds, and you would literally just melt through all content in the game. Now, the reason for this is my chest piece and backpack combinations. So you can use Vanguard or Perfect Vanguard with Galvanize or Perfect Galvanize. Now, the reason why I have the perfect variants is because they each give you 50%. So I get 50% of my armor as bonus armor from Perfect Vanguard, and I give 50% of my armor as bonus armor from perfect galvanize. So then I could use like something like say the Scorpio, right? That constantly, gives out status effects. That would proc the perfect galvanize. And then I could use like a shield, and then I could proc perfect vanguard. And then I'm basically just procking those time and time again over and over and over while I have the Cavalier charging. And then this one, it's what? Hazard and incoming skill damage reduction. So then you're able to do all of these things with one build. It's super fun. But again, Vanguard and Galvanize, or Perfect Vanguard and Perfect Galvanize. But you can use that for legendary content and make it a breeze. Now, the other support build would be like a foundry. There we go. So you could use like a foundry build. Now this one would be like a tank build or like a walking decoy build, something like that, where you're getting the aggro of everyone. You would use this with like a shield and then put on a shotgun. That way you're proccing the perfectly opportunistic or opportunistic, whichever one. For this example, I have just normal opportunistic. But what this does is you would put this on a support tank build like so. You have 2 million armor. You would have a shotgun and put on a shield. That way you're shooting them with your shotgun and it procs the opportunistic, and then you can fall back on unbreakable or perfectly unbreakable in this example for your survivability. And then that way you're just out tanking whatever enemy is in front of you, because then you could put on, say, a Crusader shield to go with that shotgun, or you could just run around with a Bulwark shield and a pistol if you want. And then everyone else on your team could just focus fire the enemies while you're out in front getting all of their aggro, sitting behind your shield, and basically just out surviving them. Because remember, Foundry Bulwark not only heals you, but it also heals your shield. And if you're nasty, you could change this specialization to Technician and then have a shield with an Artificer Hive. Artificer? An Artificer Hive. And then that way your shield gets repaired from the Hive and your shield gets repaired from Foundry Bulwark while you're shooting them with your shotgun, proccing opportunistic. Now remember, opportunistic, that amplifies all sources. So if you're running in a group and you're the support tank, the walking decoy, if you will, you could use this with the shotgun, and then your teammates will get amplified damage to those enemies through this talent. And then you'd use that with Unbreakable, and all of a sudden you have more damage and more survivability. And those would be your two support builds, right? Now next up, we have a spotter build with Heartbreaker and Adrenaline Rush. Now the reason why I would use this combination is pretty simple. So with Heartbreaker, it's all about your stacks. You have to get your stacks, right? So in order to get your stacks, you have to face tank the enemy. Typically, you would want to use this with like an ACS 12 or maybe a rock and roll shotgun, lefty, whatever you have on you. Now, what you would do is you would run up to the enemy, you would get them with the shotgun, get your stacks up, and then swap over to your primary weapon, and you're good to go. So what Adrenaline Rush would do is it would give you bonus armor whenever you get close to the enemy, so that way you can get your stacks, right? So once you get your stacks, you get bonus armor and weapon damage. So this would give you the bonus armor while you're trying to get those stacks, and then that way you're going to survive, and by the time you get your stacks up, you're good to go. Now, the reason why you would use that with Spotter is because Spotter will amplify your damage to pulsed enemies. And using that with Heartbreaker, all of the stacks are against enemies that are pulsed. So all of a sudden, you're getting the amplified damage from Spotter to go with the Heartbreaker bonus armor and increased weapon damage. And that's how you get, your perfect synergy. So you're out tanking the enemy with Adrenaline Rush while you get your stacks up. And then once you get your stacks up, you use that with Spotter, amplifying the damage even further, and you're good to go. I would typically use that with like an ACS 12 and I don't know, probably like whatever weapon you like with flatline, typically, you know, the Lexington or something like that. Now that's going to be your spotter combination. Next up, you would have like your sniper, your pistol, what have you combination. Now I do have Douglas and Harding here, but don't mind that. I mean, you could easily just have the chain killer here. But the only reason why I'm showing this is for the talent combinations. So for this one, you would be able to use this with a pistol, with a marksman rifle or rifle, what have you, and it would be a one-shot. And the reason why it would be a one-shot is because you would be using Headhunter with Vigilance, or in this case, Perfect Vigilance. But it wouldn't matter, but you would use Headhunter with Vigilance, or Perfect Headhunter and Perfect Vigilance. It doesn't matter, but that's the combination. The reason for that is you could have a one-shot sniper with Determined. You could have the one-shot pistol with Perfect Determined. It doesn't matter. You could have the one-shot rifle with Determined. But you would have a weapon with Determined, Headhunter, Vigilance, and then that's it. You're good to go. Now, if you really wanted to, you could pair that up with Hotshot, like I'm showing you right here, and then that would be perfect for your rifle, marksman rifle, what have you, and you're good to go. Now, remember, Hotshot is specific for your marksman rifles, but then you could use the Headhunter Vigilance with like a pistol build for like the Prophet or the Harvest, what have you, or you could even throw it on like a shield rifle build with like a classic M1A and Determined, and then you could rock that with like say the Zoo brand set with like Fox's Prayer. But the combination for this one for your one-shot builds would be Headhunter Vigilance. All right. Next up, we have, here's a good one, your Double Companion meta. So Double Companion is only available through the named chess piece, the Henry or the Henri, whichever way you say it. Now this is the named Electrique chess piece with Perfect Companion, and this is the only combination I'm going to show you today where you have to have the perfect variant, because this is the only way in the game to get Double Companion, because you're getting Perfect Companion on the chess piece and normal companion on the backpack. So what this does, and the reason why I have it with True Patriot for this example, is you want to be close to your enemy, all right? The reason for that is Perfect Companion. This one gives you 20% weapon damage to enemies as long as you're within 10 meters of an ally or skill. Where the backpack, it's 5 meters. So this typically means you need to be within 5 meters to get both procs. So with that being said, what I typically do is I run this with like say a Defender drone or a Mender Seeker, and then I'm running around and, you know, getting all of my damage. Or I'll run close with my allies and then just make sure I have the procs that way. But the cool thing is that it does work together. You have to be within 5 meters to get both to proc. Because remember, the Perfect Companion procs at 10 meters, but then you will not get the normal companion. However, if you get the normal companion to proc at 5 meters, you will have Perfect Companion at the same time. Pretty cool. Pretty cool combination. Rock that with like a Defender drone and True Patriot, you know, it's game over. Next up, we have the Trauma Wicked, or you would have the Ridgeway's Pride Wicked. But for this combination, I wanted to stick with the high-end talents, being the chest piece and backpack talents. So we're going with Trauma and Wicked because Trauma works the same way. Now, we do have this with Ongoing Directive because it would work with Ongoing Directive as well, and I'll explain that here in just a second. But Trauma, what Trauma would do is apply a blind whenever you shoot an enemy in the head, or apply a bleed if you shoot the enemy in the chest. Now what this does is it would then proc Wicked, or in this case, Perfectly Wicked. because applying a status effect will then increase your weapon damage. So, every time you shoot an enemy, it's a status effect, and every time you apply a status effect, you get wicked. It's really that simple. That's why it's so dangerous, this combination. Now, yes, you could change the chest piece to the Ridgeway's Pride, and then that way it would apply a bleed every time you shoot an enemy, and then that would also proc the wicked. But I'm using this with ongoing directive. So ongoing directive gives you what is called hollow point ammo. Now, hollow point ammo will apply a bleed on the enemy. And the only way of getting this to work is you have to shoot a status affected enemy to apply a mark. Once you kill that marked enemy, you get hollow point ammo, and then you're good to go. Because remember, with the hollow point ammo, it makes the enemy bleed guaranteed. So then you're guaranteed to mark the enemy, and then you're guaranteed to get the hollow point back. And it's really that simple. I mean, it's just a really perfect synergy of a build set, because you're getting hollow point, applying a bleed, which applies wicked. You're shooting them with trauma, which applies wicked. And then you could use like a skill, maybe like a stinger hive or a jammer pulse, what have you. And then that would also proc wicked. You would also use that with, like, say, sadist or perfect sadist, something like that, amplifying your weapon damage to whatever status effect you want to do. But in this case, it would be bleed, because you can make them bleed from the trauma and you can make them bleed from the ongoing directive. Our next combination is going to be Obliterate. So Obliterate, this one, it requires stacking. So Obliterate, the chest piece talent, crit hits will increase your weapon damage, stacking up to 20 different stacks. So each stack will be 1%, so it is 20%, but it only lasts for 10 seconds. So what you do is you apply that with Adrenaline Rush and Striker, because what you do here is you're face tanking. While you're face tanking, you're getting the stacks of Striker, while you're getting the stacks of Obliterate. So then, out of nowhere, you have the 100 stacks of Striker, and you have the 20 stacks of Obliterate. Now, I use that with Adrenaline Rush for the survivability. That way you can get your stacks up without having to worry about, dying. A lot of people might want to use Vigilance here, but just remember that with Vigilance, every time you take damage, that talent is disabled. So with any sort of like stacking gear sets or brand sets, you typically do not want Vigilance, because 9 times out of 10 you might be getting shot or damaged in some way, shape, or form while you're getting your stacks up. So that's why I would typically go with Adrenaline Rush. That way you get the survivability from the bonus armor, and you're getting the stacks from the Striker and Obliterate to counter that. That way you have survivability, but then you also have damage. Next up, we have Unbreakable Vigilance. So Unbreakable Vigilance, this is like a face tanking delight, okay? You would typically have this on a tank build, and that way you fall back on Unbreakable. This is what a lot of players like to use way back in the day, year 2, year 3, year 4 of the game, because it guarantees that you have that armor to fall back on, so then you're just face tanking whatever's in front of you for as long as possible. This is where we would typically say, incredible tank build with 3.6 million armor. And then you would look at it and you're like, well, it only says 1.8 million armor. But Perfectly Unbreakable gives you back 100% of your armor whenever you lose it. And that's why I was saying you would typically use this as like a face tank build, because you're going to have your armor back. So you're running at the enemy knowing that once you lose your armor, you get it back regardless. So you're good for like a good 2, 3, 4 magazines. And then you can start to, chicken dance your way into cover and heal yourself. But what I would typically do is match that up with either Adrenaline Rush or vigilance. Now, I think I already showed you, we did it also with opportunistic. So, opportunistic, vigilance, or adrenaline rush would be perfect with unbreakable. That way, you have the survivability or the survivability and damage. Next up, we have, the old year 2 meta. So this was the year 2 meta because these talents came out in year 2, being Intimidate and Adrenaline Rush. Now, if you haven't noticed, Adrenaline Rush is used in multiple builds throughout, today's video, and that's because it's easily one of the best backpack talents in the game. You get free bonus armor just by being close to an enemy or an enemy skill, so it's perfect in my eyes. It really does help with getting your stacks up, and it also helps with getting Intimidate stacks up. So Adrenaline Rush, again, whenever you're within 10 meters of an enemy, you get bonus armor. Now the same thing for Intimidate. Whenever you're within 10 meters of an enemy and have bonus armor, you now gain stacks of weapon damage. So basically what you would do here is you would run like an SMG or a shotgun build, get close to the enemy. That way you get Adrenaline Rush to proc, and then that would proc Intimidate together. So then you get bonus armor and you get weapon damage stacks on top of Hunter's Fury, which, remember, Hunter's Fury, the Apex Predator talent, it starts out at 20% amplified damage, but it goes up to 45%. So then you're getting 45% amplified damage from the gear set. You're getting the weapon damage increase from Intimidate or Perfect Intimidate while getting your bonus armor. Then you could use this with, like, say, the Ouroboros. You could use it with the Lady Death, the Backfire, what have you, and then get all of your extra damage that way. Going down the list, so the good old glass cannon vigilance meta. So this is a meta because you want to shoot first, right? We all know that Han shot first, right? Are we all in agreement on that? Yeah, Han shot first. Anyways, why I say that is because glass cannon and vigilance work very well together. However, with vigilance, you don't want to take damage because the talent disables, right? So you don't want to take damage. Same with glass cannon. You don't want to take damage with glass cannon because it's amplified, so you're super squishy. So with that logic, you would put these two together and just shoot all of the enemies before they have a chance to react and start shooting you back, right? So that's why a lot of people love glass cannon vigilance, because if you get the jump on another enemy, that's it for them. Whether it's PvP or PvE, it's a lot of fun. It's actually one of my favorite combinations, glass cannon vigilance. Just saying, just saying. Next up, we have another tank build example. This one is all for your headshots and survivability, and you would typically use this one with like a headshot weapon, like the Bighorn. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, concussion. Concussion works very well with Bighorn or a weapon with headshot damage. The reason for that is headshots will increase your weapon damage, and then headshot kills will increase your weapon damage even further. And you can get those to stack together, which is pretty cool, because one is just for headshots and the other one is a headshot kill. They're two different procs. Now, it does say that you can increase the duration if you use this with a marksman rifle, but you can use it with anything. I typically use it with the Bighorn. Now, the reason for that is you want the extra headshot damage to go with the chest piece. The chest piece, it doesn't have to be the everyday carrier, but I do have that one on. But you would typically use it with efficient or perfectly efficient, because while you're face tanking the enemy getting those headshots, you can use this with the instant med kit. So remember, they added the instant med kit, like in year 5 of the game, something like that. where if you just double tap your armor kit, you get an instant armor kit. And if you use that with efficient or perfectly efficient, it has up to a 75% chance of it not consuming. So then you could be face tanking the enemy, hitting your instant med kit, and it not consuming, and then you're just getting all of that armor back immediately. It's a lot of fun, and it really does help out your survivability. Now, you could use that with Heartbreaker, because remember, with Heartbreaker, headshots would also apply a pulse. So then you're getting the pulse stacks, which give you the bonus armor and the weapon damage to go with your perfectly efficient or efficient and your concussion. So then it's headshots for everything and survivability, right? Great combination. Going down the list, this is not the most popular combination, but this is a very strong combination. So we're using Gunslinger and Versatile. This is one of the older combinations, but it's still very strong. So Gunslinger, what this does is it increases your weapon damage when you swap weapons, right? And Versatile, or Perfect Versatile, will amplify your weapon damage by swapping weapons. So you're getting the increase of weapon damage from Gunslinger, and then you're getting the amplified weapon damage increase from Versatile. Now, these work hand in hand together, which is amazing. So you could use this with, like, say, True Patriot, where you're getting your flags up with True Patriot, and then you could swap to your secondary weapon and just mow them down. Something to look forward to with Versatile or Perfect Versatile is look at the shotgun SMG damage increase. It's the most out of all of them. And that is a 45% amplified damage increase to shotguns and SMGs to all enemies within 15 meters. So you get 45% amplified damage and 23% increase to weapon damage at the same time to your SMGs and shotguns. And you can see where that becomes very, very strong. But like I said, it's not the most popular, and that's probably because you do have to swap your weapons. A lot of people like to use like their favorite weapon or whatever, but this one would require you to, keep swapping back and forth. And finally, nope, actually, we already went over that combination. Look at that. That's our other skill combination. So those are all of your different chest piece and backpack talent combinations I would use and why. Now, just to show you on paper really quick, Kinetic Momentum, Headhunter, Spotter, Glass Cannon, Trauma, Gunslinger, Efficient, Companion, Vanguard, Obliterate, and Unbreakable. For the backpacks, Tech Support, Creeping Death, Unstoppable Force, Wicked, Concussion, Adrenaline Rush, Combined Arms, Companion, Vigilance, Galvanize, and Opportunistic. Oh, yeah, and Versatile. Now, I know it sounds like a lot, and because it is a lot, I mean, those are what, 13 or 14 different setups? But a lot of them are worth it. These are your best combinations to use for a reason. So just note that, yes, there are multiple talents. I mean, if I even just looked at the chess piece talents, you would see that we didn't even talk about over half of these talents. And the reason for that is a lot of these talents are a waste, right? So that's why I'm using this video to show you that even like these backpack talents, there's a lot of backpack talents we did not go over. And that's because I just wanted to show you the best combinations to use and why. So if you have any questions, let me know in the comment section below. And if you found this helpful or informative in any way, shape, or form, hit that thumbs up. Support the channel by subscribing and let me know what you think in the comment section below. And finally, shout out where you're from. It's cool to see where everyone's from. But that's it for me. I'm Kamikazevondoom, and that was the best talent and chess piece combinations to use in the Division 2 right now. Hope you have a great day. Take care of yourself. I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.